Ladies and gentlemen, overhaul news.
Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hero News. Kia ora, Ems.
Hello, I'm
Are
here.
Are you doing well? Do you think we should maybe do
I
this? This is an Emily night. Should we? Or should we stick to
Maybe.
blue? Because the blue's for boy. Maybe there's an in between. Is green in between?
Oh,
between.
there's an orange. Did we try the
Is there?
orange?
I haven't seen the
Yeah.
orange.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
be with you in a minute, whānau. We're just having some playing time.
We're just,
you can have
we're
it.
just,
We're just
just
messing
having
around.
fun. There you go. Orange in between.
Well, I don't think orange. Well, orange doesn't work quite so well with your pink. It's a bit clashy. I think blue or green. Well,
Green. Green's in the middle.
I think because me and Chewy are old, it's blue for boys and pink for Emily's. It's just it's so funny, man. Everything's pink. Cool. Hey, man. Hey, dudes and dudettes and anything else. How you all doing? Hope you're doing well. Back again with another edition of Big Hero News. Excited tonight to have Ricardo March on the show. We've got him on in pre-record mode, so I've already had that conversation this evening. And see if you can guess. I'll play a little game with you. See if you can guess if you can remember. Oh God, we haven't got it up. Where is it? Oh, there it is. If you can remember, first of all, my camera wasn't working, so that's always lovely. And I probably got a bit flustered because my camera wasn't working. So see if you can remember, if you can see when I realised I was using the locked out screen for the first part of the conversation. And see if you noticed the subtle change between locked out and, oh, hang on, he's thinking to himself out loud. Oh my goodness, we're using the wrong screen. And oh, all of a sudden it goes from locked out to BHN right about there. Locked out, BHN. Locked out, BHN. So, good chat though, because, oh my gosh, I woke up this morning and I had a notification from someone, like a commentator online, not like they texted me, I mean, on my YouTube feed, that Benjamin Netanyahu had finally come out and said the quiet part out loud, said the bit that we have all known for such a long time, but they are going to occupy and take over Gaza wholeheartedly. And it's been very interesting to watch the reaction, of which from the pro-Zionist lobby groups, there's been zero. There hasn't been a word. And it's like, I mean, even Ems, if we're being generous and saying that maybe because of their religious views, or maybe because of their genuine affiliation to the country, they had these. They were like, we're with them to the end. Like you now, it's all the curtains are gone. The veil is gone. Everything is gone. He said it. He said they want to occupy Gaza. It's over, and yeah. Netanyahu himself. Anyway, when I saw that, I contacted the Greens and said, who wants to talk about this? And they suggested perhaps Ricardo would be the dude. So that's what we had a chat to Ricardo about. Did you get wind of that story today? Because as soon as I woke up, it was in my feed. It was like, oh my gosh.
No,
I
missed that. I'm usually pretty onto that because I watch a lot of Hassan and a few of the guys from America, and that's sort of top priority for them. But no, I missed that. But
Yeah.
I'm surprised that it's that he's come out so publicly and said it. But yeah.
And the place that reported it was Channel 12. Channel 12 is an Israeli channel, right? So this is from within Israel. Channel 12 reported Netanyahu senior officials discussing implementing new war tactics as Hamas refuses to budge in ceasefire talks, despite IDF's rejections. So Netanyahu at the moment is basically going, we're going in, we're going to own it, we're going to live it, we're going to occupy it. And the IDF's going, oh, might be a bit much, BB. But BB's like, no, we're in there, we're going for it. So, yeah, it was both a shocking day, because that's shocking, to now have someone maybe not use these words, but go, oh, yes, by the way, I am going to ethnically cleanse that area. And then to have, especially the supporters of the Israeli government, to be very, very quiet today. Like, I know I don't typically do this, but Juliet Moses, I'm sure you're not watching, but what up, bitch? I mean, you know, this is the time you need to come up and actually say, okay, so now I am supporting this group who are now themselves saying we are going to ethnically clean this area, or not, or refute them, or reject that thing that we heard for months and months and months and months and years. Do you, gosh, the word just jumped out of my head, denounce. Do you denounce the actions of Benjamin Netanyahu today, saying he's going to ethnically cleanse Gaza? You know, we had that for 2 years about people who just wanted the innocent civilians in Gaza to have a break, having to denounce Hamas. Don't know why. No one's a fan of Hamas. But them getting away with not denouncing Israel and the Israeli government in particular. Well, there's the time, mate. Go on, tag them in. Tag those people in tonight's feed. Who have we got? Juliet Moses, Sean Plunkett. Tag them in, Fano. Share the link. Say we'd love to have a chat with them. Well, maybe not face to face, but we'd love to get their feedback from, you know, us being right, unfortunately. I say in the conversation tonight, Ems, with Ricardo, to be honest, it's not like a haha, told you so. It's like a gutting. It's horrible to be right. I wish we were wrong. I wish we were the hysterical people that they've painted us to be for so long. And it's heartbreaking to be right, but we are. And yeah. Anyway, sheesh, I've started already. Don't know what's going on. I'll pull back. And how are you, mate? How's the day been? Busy? Haven't seen you since last week. How's your weekend?
Genocide. How was your day?
Wow.
It was good. It was good. I went for a skate, as I usually do, and absolutely nailed myself. So that's going to hurt tomorrow. And yeah, just a lot of work. Working on website stuff at the moment, which is quite fun. Getting back into that old thing.
Well, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but you were a big topic of conversation on the show last night. Because
I overheard, maybe.
Yeah. Because I had been talking about how we've just finally been shown how to cut the vinyl without having to print it. So vinyl being cut just by itself without having to print it and then cut, because it's two different processes. And then, of course, I wanted to do a practice run on the vinyl, and we had this hot pink vinyl lying around. And so we practiced on that. And as you can see on Patreon, a special for Emily, asked the whānau, do they like it? That's the one that I'm going to send you. That's when I send you a picture of, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, hells to the yes, we want that. So we've done a limited run. Now, it's limited in the fact that we only have a certain amount of the pink vinyl, right? Like maybe we've got enough for 40 or 50 tops. And I think we've had like 25, 30 sales in the last 24 hours. So it's a limited run. I mean, will it be back? Will it come back? I mean, I'm not entirely sure, perhaps. But once we run out of the pink vinyl, there'll be no more. So if you're a fan of the hot pink, and I noticed in our closing credits, I wasn't aware of this, but obviously our closing credits is tied into that graphic. Because look, the closing credits is turned pink. So that's a little celebration of the hot pink hoodie. So hot pink hoodies are there. Only black on pink on hot pink on black. There we go. We got there in the end. And of course, Emily's new design for the 4 hosts, BHN 4 hosts hoodies and t-shirts. And like you suggested, Emily, there it is on black, and there it is on blue, and it's pretty dope, to be fair. So what I've also let people know about is I signaled about 6 weeks ago there was going to have to be a price increase because our suppliers have increased their prices. So this new line we've got is going to be at the new price. But what I'm going to do, because I've still got some of the older stock left over, I'm keeping everything else at the old price until the very least the end of next week. All right, I'll reassess at the end of next week, and depending on what we've sold and what we haven't sold. So that basically means you've got like a 10% discount on everything else until the end of next week, and then it'll all have to go up to the price, unfortunately, because we don't have the margins to eat it ourselves. So yeah, busy, and Emily, they are
I
loving
think
the
what
hot
I'm
pink.
seeing is that you need to have you need to order in some hot pink stuff.
Maybe.
Hot pink,
Maybe.
it's pretty in at the moment. I think bright colours are in at the moment. I think you can get away with a hot pink, bright pink,
Yeah.
something with something on it. I don't know,
Yeah,
could be quite cool.
looks really good too. Like I'm looking through to the lounge of the hoodie out there. It looks fly as fuck, man. It's a good hoodie. It's not even like a girl's hoodie. Like it just looks. It's sharp. It is sharp. All right. Yes, I know I said it the wrong way around, didn't I, Paul? Hot black on pink. I don't know what that would quite look like, but yeah, hot. Okay. I'm getting lots of feedback. Hot pant. No, we can do hot pants. We could do hot pants, BHN hot pants, with maybe like a chewy fufu in the front on the crotch area. That would work, wouldn't it? Don't you think? No? No. Okay.
Also, good luck getting a supplier that makes the hot fluoro hot pants. Hot pants?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Anything in the chat that we want to have a look at? Erica Stanford says, Mr. Alex, I don't like how this goes short, that we do that. It goes a bit longer. Erica Stanford has made an announcement that Skynet and the Terminator will be running the Ministry of Education and will replace the teachers on primary, intermediate and secondary schools from now on. Yeah. I mean, I guess that makes sense. There was
the hot topic of discussion in our house, that's for sure.
Of course it is. We're not maybe going into this in depth today, but I noticed on One News they featured a story to do with the obligations based on the treaty and how it's a breach of treaty partnership. And one of the big concerns is, and we said this last night, talking about the new way of assessing kids, which is the old way of assessing kids, is that they're talking about it being fully implemented by 2030, and you kind of go, oh, well, that should give them enough time to iron all the kinks out. But then they said it's going to start in year 9 next year. So that is 4 months, and now they've gone straight into a 6-week cycle to get feedback from teachers and stuff, and Māori educators, kura kaupapa, etc., have gone, 6 weeks is not enough. We cannot do this in 6 weeks, and it's a breach of the treaty. You're trying to force us to do it. So that's going to be super, super interesting to see what happens. What's the general vibe in your household over the whole change?
We looked at the full announcement yesterday. We were both kind of going, okay, maybe. Oh, that sounds kind of good. Devil's in the detail. Not sure about this. Also, how can you not understand the not achieved merit excellence? Just because it's an E doesn't mean you can't understand what excellence grade is. I think it's just a fucking stupid nitpick. But whatever, we're going back to A, B, C, D's, E, F's, which will be fun. But then there's a lot of things of like, how do you mark an essay out of 100? Like, that's kind of difficult to do. Does that mean that we're going to have to make tests able to be graded out of 100%? Like, there's a lot of questions. I just feel bad for teachers. They have to go through this whole thing again. But
well, that's a good point though, eh? Because a maths question is easy. It's either right or wrong, but an opinion-based answer or a delving into a piece of literature and explaining the angles on it, that's a lot more difficult to go right or wrong. Yeah, so how would you think? I mean, they used to do it.
Universities
I'm not sure
do it. So universities grade out of 100, so it can be done. There's probably something, but devil's in the detail. Where there's some things I really like. I really like the idea of getting trades and vocational studies sort of on par with traditional subjects.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about what subjects they're going to get rid of. I'm concerned about this whole idea of you have to do an exam. But then she also came out today and said, obviously you can't do that for music and creative subjects. And I'm like, well, then nothing's changing. Like, it feels like a non-announcement in a lot of ways. And it feels like they're just changing everything, but not changing everything, if that makes sense.
Well, it's also, some things. I went through school, sixth form certificate and UE or bursary. And And it was a long time ago, the 1950s. But some of them were the end of year exam is the only mark, and that's your mark. So you go for a whole year, 3-hour exam at the end of the year, and that's it. Other ones, there was like a mid-year exam and an end-of-year exam. Other ones, there was like 50% of your grade came from work through the year, and then the end-of-year exam contributed to 50%. And I guess, like they're saying, that's tough for art or music. So I think art and music and those ones, maybe English, those ones that are more sort of opinion-based, basically, because it is hard to have a teacher go, this is the correct opinion to have. This is the correct interpretation of Van Gogh's Sunflowers. You know, it's like, how do you do that? So, yeah.
We had a lot of that with media studies, which is kind of an offshoot of social sciences. But that was very much film, especially the film subjects side of it. It was very, very interpretive and subjective. So there'd often be times where you like even English ones, they come back and they'd be like, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like that's my honest opinion and how I interpreted it. You can't say it's wrong. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm not going to speculate too much on it. I generally think Erica is one of the very few MPs who actually does work quite closely with her portfolio and her industry. Whether or not it's to my standard, I don't know, but at least I think she is trying. I just think she's going full throttle in perhaps the wrong direction, and I'd like to see a lot more bipartisanship in this.
Yeah, well, we were saying that last night as well. If this is going to be something, let's just say whoever gets in next time, sure, but let's say it's Labour the year after, the election after, which will be, what, 27? What's tomorrow? No, we're 25, 20, so it'll be 29. That'll still be a year or two before this is full right. So they need to be a part of it. And it just feels like any of those long-term changes should always be bipartisan. The Prime Minister was very shitty last night and was like, well, I'm not going to take advice from the Greens. And we're like, well, why not? I mean, like, the Greens might be having to be part of a government to finish this off if you're not there. So why wouldn't you?
You're setting them up to fail.
Yeah, and like if they, because no, I mean, like we've seen it with these guys. I mean, I think they're a bit too much bull at the gate. They don't coming in and going, well, we're not doing it this way, we're doing it our way, and just throwing everything out. I mean, if they were involved with, for example, the ferry conversations, remember, like Winston Peters was, but if National was involved with that then, maybe there wouldn't have been quite the same, just complete rejection of it now because it's partly theirs. So, I mean, maybe we're just grown-ups, me and you, Emily, more you than me, and maybe they're just not. And they need to be. Yeah. So, alrighty, mighty. So tonight we're going to have a little look at Chloe Swarbrick on the New Zealand Herald, the Big Herald Now, we call them. Big Herald Now, because they're copying us. Show this morning talking about conservation. It was a really weird little interview because it was like 4.5 minutes, and you got the leader of a political party there, 4.5 minutes, and it's like, it really felt like Ryan was like, yeah, no, I don't want to do this. This is a stupid interview. It was a bizarre one. Also, I'm quite interested to delve into this conversation around building sheds and garages, because all that rings in my head is slumlords are going to be going, right, five garages on the back of that property. And also, it's just so obvious that there are these rules in place to stay away from boundaries and stuff so you don't impact on your neighbours. So this ridiculous Ministry of Regulations is going, too many regulations, a homeowner should be able to, but they're not going, the neighbour should be able to. It's one of these things I used to say to Rodney Hyde, who used to say, I don't believe him, but he used to say, I always vote for what brings freedom. And it's like when one person has freedom, it can actually impact and impress someone else. And this is a perfect example. So you build right on the border now of your property with your neighbour, and then you cast shadow on it. There's an impact there. It's not always about, and that's why these sorts of regulations are in place. I think, at least anyway. And also the conversation with Ricardo March is going to be in there as well. Anything else you want to throw in for the show tonight? Ems, anything we got to...
No, I watched the little press conference on someone's backyard about the shed thing. And I was a bit like, yeah, I can understand a little bit why there's tape, but at the same time, I'd like to know the reasons why it was there in the first place.
This is the thing that we struggle with this government is the decisions they've made once you've got to know the whole gamut of the decision. You're like, yeah, there's lots of... I remember we were talking about when they said they were going to put $50 million into private healthcare to get rid of the backlog. And I'm like, oh, on its face level, that sounds pretty good. Then Gary gets on and goes, well, actually, if they had to put that 50 million into the public sector, that would have got all these people operating on Sundays. They would have cleared the backlog, and we would have trained up more nurses in the public sector to do the operations next time. You're like, oh, okay. So it's just funneling money to the private sector. So when you get the full impact of it, and I feel a bit the same way about the announcement, like you kind of said yesterday, to do with this new way of marking. Is it going to be better? Is it going to be worse? Is it going to make no difference? Are they just putting a diversionary tactic up there 12 months leading up to the election because they don't want us to talk about the underfunded schools and how the real problem that they should be fixing is the teacher to student ratio, something they're not addressing at all. But, bells and whistles and sparkly things, they've kind of magpied us all to maybe direct it. And so the devil, and a bit the same with this one. We might as well start off with, I guess.
Which I didn't even say in the bloody thing. I still don't know what the changes are. At least in the stand up in someone's backyard, I was just like, well, okay, so what are they doing?
Well,
but
we'll
find out, I guess.
We could do that if you want. I've got some of that here as well. It's 3.5 minutes. Is that what you're talking about, that one there?
Yeah, he doesn't say anything though.
Oh, okay. Well, he doesn't say
like that's what I mean. He's just like, we're cutting the red tape. Now you can build your garages. Have fun. It's like, okay, well, what are you doing? So I think this explains what they're doing.
Let's go to the Silver Fox and see what he's got to say about the whole thing, and then we'll discuss.
Restrictions for building garden sheds, garages and sleepouts are set to be relaxed under changes to consenting laws. Single-storey structures up to 30 square metres can now be built 1 metre away from a property's boundary line.
So 30 square metres, so 5 by 6. That's not a small building. So that's a double car garage, 5 across by 6 or 6 by 5. Yeah.
Jesus, that's massive.
Yeah, it's huge.
Or 1 metre from another building without consent, while those under 10 square metres face no restrictions. Regulation Minister David Seymour says the government's making the changes following several complaints to his red tape tip line.
God.
Not the biggest problem that New Zealand is faced by any stretch of the imagination, but something that's just so stupid that the councils don't want to enforce it, people don't want to follow it, no one benefits, and yet it's a...
Do you know what it is, though? It's like the reason we have laws in place is for when we need them. So if people are ignoring them and everyone's getting along, that's okay. But if you make this decision, now I'm hoping they've thought beyond this, but you could have a 30 square metre building, right, that was 8 metres tall. Because that's still 30 square metres, because they didn't say cubic metres. They weren't implying what the height would be. They said square metres. Now, the reason you have rules in place is so if someone tries to do that and make it 8 metres tall, then the neighbour has a way to complain. Just because people aren't complaining or because people aren't adhering to it doesn't mean it can't be used when needed. And so I'm like, this does feel like a potential way that people will put tons more unlivable but rentable squares of buildings on the back of their property and then rent them out. And as I said, no height restrictions that we've heard of, just 6 by 5, 30 square metres. And as I said earlier, the reason that you have these rules in place is for things like shade. Like, I mean, I guess we know here in Dunedin, I'm probably a bit the same in Christchurch, Ems, but, wintertime when the sun's real low in the sky, you don't want someone in front of you that's got a fence a metre higher than your window because you'll get no sun at all. So that's why they're in place. So it just feels like, I don't know, I mean, it feels like he either doesn't know about it or there's something still to come. Like, let's hear the people who complained. What were the complaints? Because if it's just, I tried to build a garage and the neighbour didn't let me. Okay, why? What are the details of that and why? So, anyway, we'll go back to Mr. Mr. Seymour.
Tape tip line.
Not the biggest problem that New Zealand is faced by any stretch of the imagination, but something that's just so stupid that the councils don't want to enforce it, people don't want to follow it, no one benefits, and yet it's a rule that you'd be surprised how many people are irritated by.
Currently, small structures like this have to be as far from a boundary or residential building as they are tall.
Yeah.
Anything closer
Because of the sun. That's why they got to do it, so you don't block the sun. And Isbay Hudson says there are rules about 30 square metre dwellings. Maximum height is 3.5 metres. Well, that's the current rules, but they're changing the rules. And look, I'm not trying to put a red herring out there saying, oh, there'll be 100-metre tall buildings. Oh, I'm not being an idiot. But I'm like, that's when we say the devil is in the detail. What is it? Are we going to stick to that 3.5 metre? And if it's 3.5 metres pretty much right on or 1 metre back from the boundary, that means it's 2.5 metres above, if you go like on a 45-degree angle, the neighbour's property. And how much shade could that cast? Whereas right now, if it's a 3.5 metre tall building, as they've just said, it needs to be 3.5 metres from the boundary. I don't know. I get that it's not the biggest news story in the world, but it just feels like it's one of those unthought out, unintelligent, or is something else going on here, legislations that this government seems to be all over. Yeah, I have no idea. This has only got 10 seconds. I'll just go back a little bit. Here we go.
are tall. Anything closer requires consent. The new changes are expected to come into force later this year.
There you go. So yeah, I don't know. There was something on the scaffolding last week. I'm not about more regulations and making it harder. Some of the scaffolding rules do seem a bit OTT, but we need to see your workings, Mr. Seymour. I want to see his workings, Emily. I don't trust these guys. I just don't trust them. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think, and they have a track record and reason for why we don't trust them. Because every time we're like, oh, that seems reasonable, and then you go, oh, no, never mind, that was just all for this other shit. And that's, yeah, no. Anything, you start getting annoyed at yourself because you're like, damn, it's just everything they come out with. I just feel like I'm annoyed, or I'm just like, oh, it's just because it's national, I'm angry at them. But honestly and truly, anything that does seem reasonable tends to come with caveats that end up opening a shit storm of other shit that can come through. So, like you were saying, scum lords, slum lords, or should I say, building God knows what in their backyards. So I think there's reason to be skeptical, and it's always important, I think, to look at why those restrictions and why those things were there in the first place. And instead of going, we're completely cutting the red tape, maybe going, we're going to adjust it so that it's, negotiable. Because I think the guy in the story that they're showing there, he didn't get it consented, so it's not technically legal or not consented. He couldn't sell his property, basically, until this rule comes through. But he got all the consent of all of his neighbours to do it. So I think that's reasonable. If you can get consent from, I don't know, most of your neighbours within reasonable, if one of the neighbours says no, but it's like it's not actually going to impact you, and you can make good reason for it, then yeah. But
yeah, and there is a thing when you buy a house with unconsented work that you can sign off on as a purchaser. I know this is not consented, or there's a way you can get retrospective consent. And there's things like, for much older work, like grandfathering it in, like decks that don't have quite the same way they've been structured as they'd have to be structured today. Doesn't mean it's breaking consent. It means they're grandfathered in from the consents from eons ago, sort of thing, the way they used to do things. Vampire says something interesting. But that's other people, Pat. Libertarians only care themselves. Screw anyone else and screw community. Maybe. Growth says fixing the housing crisis with one granny flat per section. I don't know. I'm just distrusting of these guys. Stop calling it Big Herald News. Ryan is not part of our family. Citizen Gold. What Kiwi said. I call it Big Herald News because they've copied us. All right. And I think a pretty much standard practice here, certainly Monday to Thursday, is when something like this comes out, we go, on its most simplistic announcement level, this doesn't seem too bad. And that's about as far as we'll go. And then what typically happens over the next wee while is it gets worse and worse and worse. Yeah, I'd like to see this legislation actually have a good read of what it's all about and see what it's got to say.
Yeah.
All right, should we move? Oh, I'm not allowed to. Can I? Am I still allowed to play Big Herald News?
Right now, it's been labelled a...
Sheesh. Unless there's anything in the chat we want to get to, or should we just keep trucking?
Oh, I think we should keep trucking, especially if Chloe's coming.
Yeah, this is Chloe. It does feel like a strange interview. I mean, as you can see, it's 4 minutes and 29 seconds.
I mean,
So-
it is Ryan, so typically pretty strange interviews are normal, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I just think getting a lead. I haven't seen him talk to like a Luxon or a Hipkins for anything less than sort of 10. Now, of course, unless it's on Chloe, unless she goes, I've got to be out here by this time, and then that's it. Fair enough. But it just seems. But his vibe, his. Well, you tell me, chat, and you tell me, Ems. I get the sense his vibe is a bit like, oh, yeah, whatever. In this conversation, like, oh, we're all about that. We understand this. Like, it's a bit of a low energy bridge, if we can put it that way.
Yeah,
Let's have a look at the first couple of minutes.
Right now, it's been labelled a conservation retreat and a war on nature. The government says it plans to unleash growth by boosting the number of concessions given to businesses wanting to operate on conservation land, claiming it wants to drive more revenue return and thereby help conservation. Plus, they're also wanting to slap charges on foreign visitors who want to access our most iconic natural attractions. Chloe Swarbrick's the Greens co-leader for Reaction this morning. Chloe, good morning.
Morning, Ryan.
So, first of all, the fee that we would charge foreigners, and this to me makes perfect sense. It's a no-brainer. It's $20 to $60, whatever it is. You got any and it's going towards conservation. Any problems with that part of it?
Even the question is a bit like, I mean, I don't really need to ask this question, do I? It's all good. You're good with it, eh? No problems here? Maybe me.
Yeah, if we just zoom out and take a step back, we're talking about a government that cut Department of Conservation funding by approximately 66 million last year alone. So that's on top of other cuts that they've made this year and also in Nicola Willis's mini budget when they first came in. So the 62 million that this is projected to raise will only be a drop in a bucket as far as that goes. Then,
but at least we're not paying for it, right? At least we're not paying for it. At least it's foreigners paying for it, I suppose.
Well, then I think that we have to ask the question of what the administrative burden is of applying this fee, because as you know, that story before alluded to, this is not going to be added to the international visitor levy, which, by the way, National opposed when it was first introduced, went hard against it, calling it a tourist tax when it was $35. Now they've increased it as of the last budget to $100, so they see it.
That's interesting, eh? So when Labour brought in something similar, or Labour and the Greens, or the Greens brought in something similar, they went, nah, wouldn't do that. No new taxes. We're not the party of taxing. And then when they're in there and they're scrambling for revenue because of landlord reimbursements and tax cuts. And we just found the other day, of course, that Philip Morris's had their $200 and some odd million tax break extended for 3 years, taking it closer to $1 billion to the to big tobacco. Then all of a sudden they need to find some cash. And those things that
really piss me off.
Yeah, the things that they basically have gone, oh, control, too much tax. Now they're going, oh, money, some more tax. So, yeah, I'm gonna suggest that Chloe shouldn't use this blurry background because it just bring forward a strange feel, like she's in space or something. It feels like I'm not quite sure what's going on.
It is a good idea. Just one of the many dangers of politics, I guess. But yeah, I don't know how this is actually going to be implemented. It is not an inherently bad idea at all for us to raise more revenue. There's a lot of different ways that we can do that.
Okay,
but
good.
I think that we need to look at the bigger picture where this government has consistently not invested what is necessary in our Department of Conservation to protect our natural environment.
Okay. It's a really interesting point she makes as well. So Chloe's basically saying they've stripped $66 million out and then some more money the following year, and this is going to generate 62 million. And fucking Ryan, well, but at least it's foreigners paying. And I'm just like, but hang on. So we should be going, yay, foreigners are paying for the upkeep of our natural beauty and our dock safety. It's like, really? It just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. And, you know, as is always the case, Emily, when you see hypocrisy, you can normally land that pretty squarely at the feet of this government. Them saying something's bad until they want to do it, then something's good all of a sudden.
Labor policy bad, our policy good.
Yeah, no, just don't tell
Stealing
them
the
it's same.
ideas, the guy who's stealing their retirement ideas, just this, copying the homework. The thing, he did it in this, and I've seen him do it a few times, is as soon as he gets the answer he wants, he goes, oh, yep, okay, next question. Like, he doesn't let them finish, whereas most people will, like, let them finish. But as soon as he gets the answer he wants, he just goes, oh, yep, cool, right, moving on then. Shut up. Let her talk.
I'm interested
Yes,
to know
arrogant.
how this show is going for them. You know, Herald on YouTube has 186,000 subscribers. So you would expect them to be just flying along with what they're doing. But if you think about someone like us and our little coming up to 19,000 subscribers, so what, they're 120, so 9 times our size, 9 times as big as us. Their shows are getting 5,000 views, 6,000, 5,000, 7,000, 6,000, 6,000. So sort of twice the number of views we're getting, and then 9 times the size. And I just wonder, because I mean, this is the company I worked for. When I was at ZB, I think they bought Herald after I left, but it's the same company now. And I'm interested in this era of how media works and how many, especially news medias, are failing. What they need, what kind of return they need to see from this show on the Herald to make it work. Yeah, I'm intrigued actually.
Find some numbers.
You do that then, and we'll just go on to the next part of the conversation. And the next part of the conversation is talking about opening up more conservation land to make revenue. So they're talking about making revenue through sort of, I'll just say, use their term, a tourist tax. But also this government's talking about opening up conservation land for other activities to generate revenue that way. So they really are looking at the conservation land as a way to generate income for this government.
Some of the land that the conservation estate could be further opened up to private enterprise, albeit things like guided walks and, you know, maybe you'd have a few extra concerts, or you'd let some more filming happen in our national parks. Big deal?
Well, we're not actually at this point in time crystal clear on what that looks like, Ryan. So I think that is one of the really important questions to put to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister needs to rule out that.
So, Chloe, the devil is in the detail. So her response is what our response has been, which is like, well, we need a bit more information before we can say good or bad. Not inherently bad, but need to see the information before can say good.
There will be no mining on conservation land because as we've already seen with the direction of travel, this government does not value our natural environment. They've made it easier to kill our endangered species, the likes of kiwi. They've also obviously fast-tracked coal mining and kiwi habitats. But, you know, Forest and Bird hasn't come out lightly on this issue. This is the most significant rollback in conservation protections in a generation. And that is saying a lot in the context of the way that this government looks at our natural environment as something to exploit.
As you're talking, Chloe, we're playing beautiful pictures of Milford Sound, I think it was. Just to be clear, no one's going to be building a McDonald's or mining at Milford Sound. This is talking about marginal land, stewardship land, some of which is not, basically can't be classified. It's not going to be our most beautiful, pristine areas that we are going to be potentially using for commercial.
Out of this whole interview, the thing I want to know most of all is who is this dude in the background?
Going to be our most beautiful, pristine areas that we.
He's got gloves on. He's got a lanyard on.
Yeah.
He's got headphones on. This is the biggest news story of the day to me. Who is this dude? This Napoleon Dynamite dude in the background. That's what I want to know. That is there. Now we're getting to the biggest stories of the day.
Going to be potentially using for commercial purposes, right?
Well, again, Ryan, when we start to roll these protections back, we see that we tend to never get them back. And this, again, is case in point. We are changing, or the government is proposing to change, the fundamental role of the Department of Conservation from that of protecting our natural environment to simply managing its use.
Yeah.
And this is where we're seeing that direction of travel from protection and conservation of the things that New Zealanders hold dear towards exploitation.
So, what do we want DOC to be? Do we want it to be protectors of the environment or managers of the environment? I think it's a very interesting and smart way to look at legislation, that once you go down a path, it's hard to do a U-turn from it. And when Chloe said that in this interview, I started thinking about the mining, the drill baby drill stuff that this government's talking about. Once you start opening up the gas fields and stuff to international mining companies, I guess what she's saying there is once you go down a path, it's very hard to come back from it. So if we loosen up the protections around our environment a little bit, or a medium-sized bit, it's very unlikely it'll go from a little bit back to stronger. It might go from a little bit to a little bit more to a little bit more. And so it's an interesting way to think about legislation in general and what to do with them. Thoughts, if any? I've lost you. Is your mic off?
Sorry, it is off.
That's right.
Yep, devil's in the detail, as always. Obviously, there's pros and cons to both. Bring in international money to pay and help us do conservation work, because I feel like it's always going to be underfunded, conservation work. We just don't have enough public money going around to pay for that sort of stuff, unfortunately. So it's good. It'd be good if they bring some more money in, I guess. They could probably just add it to the levy or use the money from the levy, but I guess that's to pay for landlord cuts. I guess we just have to wait and see. I don't trust them, especially after they tried to mine where there was like a Kiwi, non-Kiwi hotspot.
Yep.
What do you call it? I don't trust them because they tried to mine in that area. So
And
they haven't got big, they're pretty small brains if that's what you want to try and do.
Yeah, and Mr. Jones talking about 17 lizards would lose their lives, like that's no big deal, but it's like that's kind of all we have. The native flora and fauna is what's going to bring people to this country for the next 1,000 years. Versus it's like a sugar hit. The sugar hit of earning a bit of money off the gas or coal or whatever, and once you get it out, you're done anyway. So it's a very short term. I guess the problem is short term. We're still talking probably dozens, if not 50 years. But if you're genuinely looking long term, it's what's best for the government. It's not going into our protected environment and fucking with it, even if it's on a minor scale. And look, I don't actually believe what Ryan Bridge is saying. It's some guided walks. It's like, well, where in New Zealand can't you do a guided walk now? What natural park can't you go into, or protected space that you can't do a guided walk now? So when he says that, it makes me distrustful as well as to what's going on, because I don't know any national parks in New Zealand that you can't walk in, albeit probably some specific spaces within it, like on tracks and that kind of stuff. But yeah. It just feels odd. My heckles are up if that's such a thing.
Yeah. Yep.
So were you doing some research while we were doing that? Were you?
I was doing a little bit, but no, Social Blade is not telling me how much NZ Herald gain in their subscribers. It tells us all of our stats, but it doesn't tell us the NZ Herald stats, which is really annoying. I thought you might be going there, and I'm there. I've got the Herald stuff. They have a daily average of 57,000 views, weekly average of 469. Last 30 days, 1.7 million. They've had 1,000 new subscribers in the last month, which is not many actually. We get about 1,000 a month, a little bit under. Mine are blocked. I can't see anything. Mine is.
Have you been naughty somewhere?
I don't know. But it's not. It's either not bringing the correct NZ Herald,
Or have you got
a
it's
different...
NZ Herald TV? Have you got that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, have they changed their
NZ
name?
Herald.
Have they?
It's NZ Herald TV. So there you go. That'll be why. That'll be why.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Now I'm seeing the stats. Yeah. Yes.
The technician says
They have a
shanty
plus.
towns
We have a
coming
C.
to
so...
your hood near you. Arvid says wealth tax. At least the rich are paying. Tourists, wealth tax. I guess you could look at it like that. Yeah. All right. What else is going on, Emily? Because we've got an interview to look at some stage, but I feel like we're rushing through tonight's show. We're screaming through. Anything you want to add in there? Anything you could say?
No, not really. Things are pretty quiet, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. There's not a whole lot happening at the moment. Just kind of more of the same. In terms of news, I haven't seen anything to comment on specifically. Actually, no, I do have something. I just remembered something. We were talking about bloody Brian Bridges. He did an interview talking about the changes that they made to the transgender inclusion in sports. That was sort of redacted from the Sports NZ website, completely wiped. And he brought on someone to, I think it was one of those turf groups like Women's Protection League. That's Cats Protection League, but it might as well be Women's Protection League. Came on and, platformed her, whatever that is, two sides of the coin, whatever. Then they brought on someone from Christchurch to talk about it. And he was so rude to them, just like came through with his own opinion. It was hard to watch. He clearly had a defined opinion that women in sport are all boxes and they're going to smash transgender women are going to smash biological women just by the nature of being bigger and stronger, because that's how biology works, when this person was clearly saying that the science is and the research is still being done, and it's non-conclusive. So it was I saw it on Blue Sky because they had made a complaint to New Zealand Herald that they didn't uphold the Media Council ethics, and they weren't able to speak on their expertise, and instead were sort of questioned like a politician, and he was bringing in too much of his own personal opinions. So it was not a nice interview to watch, that's for sure.
I'm just scrolling through to see if I can find it. I can't see it off the top of my head, so maybe I'll go back and have a squiz over it.
At least a week ago.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, if it's 6 days ago, it'd be a wee bit further back.
7 days, that much. Yeah, all right, interesting. Yeah, he's an interesting one, is Ryan Bridge.
I used to watch him on, what is it, AM show? Was that what he was on?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he wasn't that bad, but I guess breakfast TV is so very different to what he's doing now. I don't know. Is it? I mean, what he's doing now with NZ Herald now doesn't feel... It's not the news. It's not the stuff that sort of Sam Hayes does, where she sat down with Erica and did an interview with her in the studio. It's definitely not that level of journalism. But it feels like a Mike Hosking ripoff.
Well, that's what he's trying to do. I mean, like you obviously weren't doing much with us when AM was around, because we've been very critical of him for a very long time. His libertarian underbelly has always been showing. But, the broken clock can be right twice a day, and occasionally he gets I won't even say a good question out. Occasionally he gets the correct question out, which, is the very least you can expect of a
that's the one that you found
of a journalist. I'll bookmark this and go and have a look at it later on tonight. So there's your two parts. I was looking to see how long each side had.
You don't need to look very hard to see that he pretty much just rams his opinion down. Yeah, it's just annoying. I think very annoying to watch that.
That's one of the things as well about an honest platform, is that we just tell people where we are. Like I remember the BSA, Broadcasting Standards Authority, part of the rulings that things would get upheld on when you were in radio was, would a listener expect to hear this on this radio station? So therefore, if you heard the word fuck on The Rock, that probably wouldn't have been upheld as a BSA, but if you heard fuck on News Talk ZB or something else, it probably would, because in general the listener is has an expectation of what they might hear on that thing. And I don't see this as very much different. And unfortunately, there are a whole bunch of people, Ryan's one of them, I guess, who seem to put themselves out as journalists or middle men and women, and they're not, because you can see they're coming from their perspective. So I think the thing that we do and are trying to do and will continue to do is we say you can't really get surprise from us. There's not much that you wouldn't expect to hear from a left slant or perspective from the show. So if anyone wants to complain about, not hearing balance here, there's two things. One is we ask and they don't come on. So sorry. But two is me and Chewy 18 months ago, we put online our political compasses. You can't be much more open than that. Chewy was more authoritarian than me, just so we know. But we put them out there. So it would be pretty, not that we are part of the media council now, but it would be pretty hard for someone to make a complaint against us if it was some kind of wackadoo far left sort of perspective, because it's like we say that's where we sit. Me and Chewy may not be exactly where that perspective is, but that's where our family is on some things. So what do you expect to get on this show? The opposite might be true. Got a far right position on here, might be more likely to get some kind of complaint upheld. I just think you tell people who you are and what you're doing. To be honest with them. And yeah, Ryan Bridge is very obviously a right-wing libertarian, but he's also doing the 5 a.m. show on ZB. So he is lining himself up for that Mike Hosking slot. Mike Hosking is not a journalist. Mike Hosking is not a journalist, so he has that. He doesn't need to be balanced, although he probably doesn't overtly say where he is exactly, but he's not a journalist. And it's an opinion-based show.
No, he doesn't exactly hide it.
No.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, well, let's have a look at this story, which I think is pretty massive. Like TVNZ covered it tonight. I don't know if 3 did. I didn't see 3 tonight. And when this kind of international world, especially to do with Israel and Gaza, filters down to like local, national television networks, but that are in other countries, especially in New Zealand, it's getting somewhere. TV1, TV3, they're our only news. There's not like this 24-hour news cycle. In New Zealand, we're not looking to fill time like someone like CNN would have to do, because they're just on all the time, which means the stuff that makes it to the news is pretty much the 10 or 15 stories, probably not 15, maybe 15 if you include the sports, that are the big news stories of the day. So to have this be on TVNZ tonight, also the same day it was released, actually shows the level of importance this story has. As I said, I woke up this morning, opened up my phone, had a notification talking about Israel Channel 12. So this is not a Channel 12. This is a French called I-24 station. I'm not sure where they sit in a political affiliation, but Israel's Channel 12 reports Benjamin Netanyahu's senior officials discussing implementing new war tactics as Hamas refuses to budge in ceasefire talks despite IDF's rejections. Israel's senior officials from Netanyahu's office told the Channel 12 of their plans to launch a more intensive military offence in the Strip, in the areas where it has not yet operated, and that would probably imply in the south, where all the refugees are, because that's about the only place they haven't operated, where the remaining Israeli hostages are understood to be held, in addition to the civilian population. The channel reported an official saying, "The decision has been made. We are going to occupy the Gaza Strip." And of course, to occupy a landmass, you need to ethnically cleanse that landmass, because even if the inhabitants stay there, they stay there under your rule. That means their culture, their everything has been cleansed from that area. As I said, a couple of things happened in my conversation. I had a problem with my mic. So good news is you don't have to look at me. And also I forgot that I had the wrong branding on. So this is not Craig Rennie's locked out. This is my locked out, and then it becomes my BHN. Got Ricardo on, spoke to a couple of Greens today and said who would be the best person to come and have a chat about this. And they all said you should talk to Ricardo. So let's have a look at this conversation now. And Ems, when we get back, I'll give you the space to share your thoughts on it, because I kind of share all my thoughts in the conversation. So enjoy me and the dog talking to Ricardo March, and we'll be back shortly. I want to welcome to the show Ricardo March from the Greens. Welcome, Ricardo. Apologies for not being here sort of in person, although I am still here in person. So yeah, good to see you.
Likewise.
Well, you don't really see me, but I understand what you're saying. It's like, it's a colloquial. It's like, let's go out for a coffee. I don't drink coffee, but I still say to people, let's go out for a coffee.
Good to see your thumbnail on the screen.
Hey, I woke up this morning to some quite shocking news. And that is, like, just to put it bluntly, that Benjamin Netanyahu has come out and he has said that they are going to take over from the river to the sea. And apparently that's all a-okay, sweet as, and there is it's an okay thing for him to say. He has said that before when he says from the Jordan West they want control. The defenders of, I don't want to say of Israel full stop, but certainly of the policies of Israel, have long been of the opinion that this is a defensive war. October 7th, the critics, I count myself as one of them, have been saying this is genocide, this is an ethnic cleansing, and it seems today that they've officially kind of announced, that's exactly what it is. I want to play a couple of little bits of audio and video. They're only 30 seconds each, just to give us an up-to-date point as to where we are.
There's major news coming out of Israel tonight, where in a matter of hours, the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, is expected to urge his security cabinet to back a full military takeover of the Gaza Strip. That's according to Israeli media reports that a source tells CNN are accurate. Senior officials close to the Prime Minister are quoted as saying the die is cast, we're going for full conquest. If Israel's military commander doesn't agree, he should resign.
So that's just a very quick clip from our friends at CNN. And then this was actually on One News tonight, and it was the second half of an article. The first half, they were speaking to the brother of a hostage, and he was shown emaciated, and they were talking about how his brother is still suffering as a hostage. So when you hear the start of this conversation saying the person's name still trusts Benjamin Netanyahu, who's talking about the brother of the hostage, who they've just interviewed previously to this. But let's just get a touch on this as well.
Eli says he trusts Prime Minister Netanyahu to do the right thing, to try to free his brother. But many of the hostage families say that intensifying the war now would lead the country and their loved ones towards disaster. In Gaza, it's difficult to see what there is left to destroy. And today, in a video addressed to President Trump, 600 former Israeli security officials agreed, saying the country is no longer fighting a just war. Israel's critics would say images like this support that. 9-year-old Mariam is chronically malnourished. Today, her mum took her to hospital. She says before the war, she was a healthy girl, weighing 25 kilos. Now, she weighs just 9.
I expect death at any moment. I wake her up when she sleeps to make sure that she's still alive.
For Mariam, and for thousands of hungry children across Gaza, they are clinging on.
And despite the concerns from the 600 former Israeli security officials, it's not clear what pressure, if any, Donald Trump will choose to exert on Israel's Prime Minister.
So there you go. I guess I just can throw you the ball if you're okay with that. What are your thoughts around what you have seen and what we're seeing now? It feels like a pretty momentous day in that it's kind of the world's worst kept secret is finally officially out.
Yeah, I mean, it's harrowing, but as you've said, it's that mask-off moment where they're not even pretending that this was always about driving Palestinians out from their homeland, and it was never about defending themselves. We've known this for a while. Palestinians have been warning us for quite some time, and I think this is also the end result of when I say international community, I mean particularly governments, and singling out here Western governments, not taking meaningful action to sanction Israel in a way that would actually make them feel like there are consequences for this genocide. And I think unless our government and others take leadership and punish Israel by sanctioning them, I just think Israel will continue feeling like they can carry out this genocide without facing any real consequences.
Yeah, well, we all saw in America, and I even think AOC was involved in funding Israel and talking about, therefore, defensive weapons in the last kind of week to 10 days, which was very quickly pointed out that the defensive weapons, the Iron Dome that Israel has got, becomes offensive because they know they can do whatever they want and they're safe under the Iron Dome. So even their defensive weapons funding is contributing to their offensive weaponry. So interesting to see Trump came out today and said if any states in America speak out against or go against Israel, he will not give them funding for emergencies, like if they have a hurricane or a cyclone or something come through. And one then, of course, has to wonder, is he going to try and put that pressure on the world? Will he say to the world, if anyone speaks out against Israel and what they're doing, your tariffs will go back up to 100%? It does feel like, and I don't want to be pithy and kind of school kiddish, but the I told you so moment, it's like it is utterly frustrating when there have been those of us shouting this from the rooftops for such a long time. And unfortunately, I couldn't wish enough that I was wrong in this situation. I'm sure most are the same, but all the worst warnings we have put out there are now coming to pass. Israel is talking about settling, occupying Gaza. That means the inhabitants of Gaza cannot be there. That is the definition of ethnic cleansing and removing them from there. And I guess if they don't want to remove, then you start to get into genocide and eliminating them altogether. It's just the worst of the worst, Ricardo.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's what we do in relationship to Gaza is going to leave a stain in our humanity for quite some time. You know, we've got a genocide that is literally being live streamed in front of our eyes. And we've got politicians who feel like because we're quote unquote, too far from Gaza that there's nothing we can or should do. And then we've got, on the other hand, politicians who are acting very openly like tyrants, punishing anyone who dares speak out against this genocide. I think, though, I want us to feel a sense of hope and a sense that we can still do something, and we must continue to fight for the people in Gaza because it's the right thing to do. And I think, despite what we're seeing in the news today, I think there is a call for all of us out there to do everything that we can to put in place real consequences on Israel for the genocide that has been carried out. And domestically, there are things people can do to try and put in place real consequence towards Israel. And that includes boycotting, divesting, and also pushing for sanctions. And so we've got organizations who have put out a list of products that everyday people can continue to boycott. These are products from corporations that have links to Israel and corporations who are benefiting from the ongoing genocide. But also, we've got a members' bill in the ballot to put in place a sanctions regime on Israel that people can support by writing to their local MP and asking them to support this bill.
What does that mean?
6 more MPs.
What does that mean, Ricardo? What does it mean to put sanctions? Like specifically, what would it achieve? What are you asking?
Yeah, so I mean, we know that there's a range of people who are literally economically benefiting from this genocide. I mean, for example, we've seen Francesca Albanese putting out a report on the corporations that have literally benefited from the displacement of Palestinian people. And by that, I mean profiting, whether it's from the selling of weapons or serving people who are part of the IDF. When it comes to the sanctions regime we want to put in place, what this looks like is similar to what we had for Russia. And that is a sanctions regime that can target, for example, politicians, government officials, and it is an effective tool to effectively tighten the ability for these people to effectively profit from a genocide. And I think this is key, because part of the challenge is we've got people who are becoming richer, who are gaining more land, more control, and more power from the senseless killing of civilians. And sanctions is one way in which we can restrict and punish that profiting from war crimes. And so again, this is something we can meaningfully do from here in Aotearoa, no matter how far away we feel we may be. And unless we all do our part, Israel and Netanyahu and basically everyone who's benefiting from this genocide will feel like they can continue carrying it out without any real consequences. And I think that's the biggest thing we can do to try and stop it at this point.
Yeah. And look, don't believe the bullshit that we're too far away. You know, we're 13,000 miles, I think it is, from South Africa. In 1981, we made a lot of noise about what went on there and evoked part of the change. We're 11,000 miles, I think, away from Israel. I think it's something similar to that. And so don't buy into the bullshit that how far away we are, we can't make a difference. We've proven that we can. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I only say that because that's the lines that we've been hearing from.
But that's what I'm saying. Don't buy that bullshit by the people who are saying that. I also say, speaking of that bullshit, and look, maybe this is a little bit the vindictive part of me. Those people who have been profiting off the pro-Zionist narrative in the media and stuff, especially in the independent media, and the people who have been pushing that barrel for so long, I'm like, call them on it. You know, tag them in this story, send it to them. The people who have been pushing this narrative are no different, in my instance, from those kind of disinformation dozen who pushed the narrative around COVID that ended up leading to people in New Zealand dying. And the same sort of thing of those people have given some less informed people a soft landing to stay ignorant. And if you're staying ignorant now, it's by choice, because there are too many organizations, there are too many individuals, none of whom are connected, that are all saying the same thing through what they're seeing happening in Gaza.
And I think the antidote to all of that, in my view, is to also break away from the propaganda machine and to actually, I would encourage people to have conversations in their workplace, on their family dinners, at the barbecue, with mates, on the actions that they can take to support people in Gaza. And I think it's having those open-hearted and open-minded conversations with our peers that wrestles control away from the propaganda that we see proliferated in social media, and the way that actually social media algorithms effectively punish people from speaking out on these issues. I think the antidote to all of this is to tap into our real life connections that we have with people, and to have those brave conversations about our shared humanity, about our sense of justice and fairness. And while the news coming out today may be harrowing, I also want us to remember that the movement for Palestine is stronger and more organized and louder than it's ever been before. We've seen how hundreds of thousands of people showed up in Australia to rally for people in Gaza. And so I think if we tap into the power that we have and our relationships with people on the ground and everyday conversations, we can break through, I think, the propaganda machine that unfortunately social media corporations are enabling by having algorithms that effectively shut down people speaking out on Gaza. And so the fight must be also held in our everyday lives by actually having these conversations and listening to people with curiosity, people who may not be fully informed on the issue because they've actually been exposed to the propaganda more than anything else. And so the only way to break through that is by actually inviting people to feel their hearts and that sense of fairness and justice that most of us hold, and then take action by either writing to the local MP, to show up at their local rally, to go and look at the list of products that Palestinian people are encouraging us to boycott, because we cannot fall into despair, into a sense of saying there is nothing we can do. There is always something we can do, and I think we should keep trying to take action until the genocide ends.
Hey, Ricardo, thanks for your time this evening. Last question. With the announcement by Netanyahu, or at least the behind-the-scenes stories we're being told, that it's very clear that he wants to publicly now and honestly own all the territory from the Jordan West. What do you think our government, led by Christopher Luxon, should be doing or saying now that the veil has dropped? There is no longer a need to try and guess what they're doing here because they're saying it. What do we need to do officially as a government, as a country?
There are so many things the government can do, but I think what we need to do is move away from words of concerns at the United Nations and joint weak statements, and actually show a condemnation, put in place sanctions, recognize Palestinian statehood, and actually join the South African case to hold this Netanyahu and the Israeli government at the highest court possible, and then on the international stage. There is so many tangible actions our government could choose to be taking, and instead, basically, all we're getting are weak statements on international platforms that end up doing nothing but provide cover for the ongoing genocide. And so don't let anyone make you believe that there's nothing our government could be doing. There's a range of actions our government can take. One of them is to put in place sanctions, but there's a range of other things that our government could be doing too.
Ricardo March. Hey, thanks, dude. Thanks for joining us this evening. I really appreciate you jumping in.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for keeping on fighting this fight. It's super important.
Kia ora. Have a good night.
So there you go, from the Greens, Ricardo March. So there you go. Ems, first time you seeing that conversation. Got any thoughts?
Yeah. Also, just before we get into it, I loved his gamer headset. It was very cool. Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's not something I'm particularly well versed in this conflict, but for me, it's pretty clear that it's a genocide from the beginning.
Yeah.
Not from the beginning, from the very, very beginning, from the attacks, because prior to that, I didn't really know much about that area and the conflicts and all that sort of thing. And I was also I've befallen to the propaganda of the chopping of heads and killing babies and all of that stuff because it sounded so horrific. And obviously, if the news was reporting it, then it must be somewhat true. Only to later find out that was all propaganda from the IDF, from Israel, and none of that stuff has been substantiated. Yeah, and then the more I learn from people who actually know about the stuff is it's pretty obvious what the tactic was or is, and now it's clearly defined for us. But it has been really interesting to watch the world change its mind. Everything from Republicans who in America you had people that were pro-Trump and pro-Republican starting to change their tune a little bit and be like, actually, I don't know if we do support Israel in this. Once they started to see how horrific it was, just the continuation and how horrific and clear it was a genocide. It is a genocide. But then also the world changing their mind as well. The UN starting to think about doing something. And instead of it being Hamas, the bad guys, Gaza in Palestine is nothing more than Hamas, terrorist organization. And we're kind of getting away from that and going, you know what, Israel is definitely in the wrong here. It's been very interesting to watch it over the last 2 years, 2.5 years.
It's also interesting you're talking about like Republicans and Democrats and what they're doing. And I mean, I think that's fair to say, well, it's fair to assume, I guess, based on donor money and also based on the evangelical base in America, which is a very powerful, very large voting base, how many of the American politicians are still on Team Israel. And even if they say publicly that's not official, last week there was $500 million, I think, dollars that was given to Israel for quote unquote defensive weapons. That's what I was saying to Ricardo. If in Israel their defensive weapons enabled them to use their offensive weapons without concern. Because basically they've fired missiles into, I think, 5 countries in the last 6 months. And the only reason they can do that is because of the Iron Dome. So the defensive weapons are actually opening the door for their offensive weapons. So it's not quite as black and white. It's only money to defensive weapons. But still, and I think it was, who was it that said it? I can't remember. One of the commentators I was watching, something like 13% of Democrats, so lefties, our Labour Party MPs, the equivalent of, are fully on board with Israel's in the wrong, whereas 88% of Democrat voters are. So you don't see that. You see the disparity between the two of them. And I was going to show you, this is still happening. So I'm sorry to do, this is like meta show within a show, because this is Kyle Kulinski's show, but he was watching, he played a clip from, I think this guy's a politician, I forget his name right now, and just still to this day going on CNN saying the starvation is a fraud. It's a lie. You've all been fooled. It's not real. Have a listen to this.
There's this asshole on CNN. His name is Scott Jennings. Really high in his own supply. Really thinks he's God's gift to this earth. And he's like, the MAGA voice on the CNN panels. And this guy is smug. He's arrogant. He's dumb. He's a dipshit. And he really got caught speeding recently because he basically did Holocaust denial right in front of everybody's face. So they're talking about the starvation in Gaza, and he says something so preposterous that the otherwise mild-mannered CNN host has to go in there and fucking check his ass and lay down the law. Watch this.
People are seeing things with their own eyes. And what they're seeing is massive amounts of propaganda. Look what the New York Times had to admit to just in the last few days. I've heard repeat.
What did the New York Times? They admitted
running a photo that was a complete and total hoax.
They admitted that they ran a photo of a starving child who also had a disease.
You're gonna defend this?
Is that the admission?
It's a hoax.
You're gonna act like people
and
aren't
it was
starving?
sent around the world to make people think that Israel had starved that child. He had a
They did starve that child. They did.
Yeah.
They did.
So that was, I'm sure you guys know about that. The front cover of the New York Post was a child who has a disability as well, which atrophies muscle, but he had that and he was starving. And then of course they go on to talk about what about the dozens of other children in that story that didn't have it. And the irony is, and I don't know whether it was Kyle who said it or I heard it somewhere else, is the child who's got the disability or the affliction, one of the reasons you get that is when you're in the womb and your mother's not getting enough nutrients to actually enable you to form correctly and to a healthy amount. So probably because his mother was somewhat malnourished, that was the thing that led him to having this condition. And on top of that, he's getting starving. We said this last night. If you are taking that stance now, that this is all a hoax, you either are the dumbest person in the world, you're being willfully ignorant, like you're lying, or you're on a paycheck from somewhere. Because there's 100 aid agencies, independent of one another, are saying what's happening. British doctors are coming out of Gaza talking about one day there'll be a whole bunch of kids coming in being shot in the groin. The next day there'll be a whole bunch of kids coming in shot in the head. The next day a whole bunch of kids will come in being shot in the ankle because they're being used as target practice. And they're actually aiming for different parts of the bodies on different days. The witnesses are the doctors who are getting these kids brought to them. And then you've got that Green Beret who we've talked about for a couple of weeks now, who was employed to stand on the wall between the two places and saw his fellow professional soldiers shooting and killing starving people looking for food. It's like it's the biggest conspiracy of all times with literally tens of thousands of eyewitnesses all lying, or the IDF and the Israeli government are doing this. You got to be willfully ignorant. There's no other way.
Yeah, I have no qualms that I am on the correct side in history in saying that it's a genocide and that this is happening. I have no qualms in that at all, because I feel like it's one of those things that in hopefully not too long people will really will really see the truth in all of this, although it probably should have been recognised a little while ago.
Yeah, and I think you are.
Once we started to get clear details. But,
I think you're already seeing that. People, and yes, also, once you see people sort of nefariously coming onto the right side of history, in other words, they're going, I've always been over here, you know that the tide has turned. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, no longer hide it.
Couple of texts. Cyber Goblin says Simon Dallow says nothing and yet everything with that face. I want to come back
right
to
at the end
Cyber
of that. He right at the end of that story, basically, because obviously he's watching the monitor the story so that he's ready to come back on, and you could just see his grimace. It's off.
It's funny when they can't hide it. When they can't hide it anymore, eh? Like I tried out for that. I had an audition for the Aramoana movie, and they said to me, the people having the audition, "What do you remember of Aramoana?" And I think it was Judy Bailey, and it was Judy Bailey's red eyes. So Judy Bailey was doing the news, and obviously TV1 back then, or TVNZ, had a live feed to Aramoana, and she'd been crying. You could tell. She did the news at 6 o'clock, and they'd had all the feed all the way up, and she'd been seeing what was going on, and she'd been crying. And so my memory of that day was, her red, obvious, Judy Bailey, Angela Diordney, anyway, the female presenter, obvious red eyes from what they were saying. So I got it.
It reminds me of Hillary Barry during the earthquakes. She had the same thing. Her live feed, she was in tears.
Totally.
Hard job.
Actually, we'll come back to Cyber Goblin because I'll give us something a bit of uplifting to finish on because this is heavy stuff. James says, in 77 years, Israel has never been in a just war. James also says, there are many Palestinian diaspora and refugees in Aotearoa. They are us. We are a Five Eyes partner. What we do matters. Speak up and take action. I wonder after the, I don't know if you saw it, Ems, but the march over the weekend in Sydney they were reporting 90,000, but people are saying over 100,000. I'm intrigued because there have been marches. You guys have the Remembrance Bridge every Saturday in Christchurch that John Minto and his mates go to. I wonder if this Saturday might be a bit of a day to get out there, and I wonder if we'll see a bit of a swell, especially after what's been announced today by Israel. Peter says we need to stop the Israel working holiday visa. Yeah, I mean, at what point do we get to where we actually send home the Israeli ambassador? I mean, that's the thing. What do we want them to do? All right.
Well, it's an interesting. Day one is interesting about what to do there, and I don't know foreign politics very well, but it was one of the things that was quite interesting in the Winston Peters in Moana interview is that he was saying, I mean, in his own Winston ways, and that interview had its own issues, but he was sort of saying, what do people know about foreign politics? It's quite, what if we get rid of the Israeli ambassador, then who are we going to talk to? Who are we going to negotiate with? Who can we, talk with and change the minds of and actually, try and change things, which I don't know. That's not really my forte. But that is an interesting one of how much does an ambassador have in terms of power, or is it really just a figurehead in a spy? I don't know. I don't know.
Chewy always points out when we get into this conversation, Helen Clark sent the Israeli ambassador home when Mossad agents were stealing passports or stealing dead children's details and getting passports by them straight home. I guess that was a one-off event. It wasn't an ongoing 3-year thing, but it's not without precedence us telling ambassadors to piss off for a while. Yeah. All right. Hey, listen, we're going to wrap up, and it does feel like a bit of a heavy way to go out. So I want to share one more thing with you as a bit more lighthearted, just as we go out. And I was reminded of it because of Cyber Goblin in the chat that we just put up there. I had a bit of a conversation. Me and Clint were talking last night, Ems, about budgets, the budgets that the government sets, and then the government says, "Oh, there's no money in the budget," and we always struggle because the budget is the amount the government says that department can have. So they're going, you guys can have $100. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have $105. That's outside the budget. You could also put another $5 on the budget. Obviously, we're talking millions, but just as an example. And me and Clint started talking about the pot. It's the government who decides how big the pot is to fill with money. we just had a bit of a real life brainstorm last night, and we thought maybe we could get a scene from Ghost where Luxon playing the role of Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze in the background there could be making us the pot. So they are making the pot, hopefully a nice big one, because then there's more money to put into it to fix up our education system, to fix up our health system. And that is also, just in case you're wondering, we make clips. The clip where we talk about it, this is also embedded into that clip. So if you're watching any of the videos over the next few days, this is actually a scene from, here we go. The artists themselves. Actually a scene from 2.5 Men spoofing Ghost, but close enough. Yep, fair enough too. So there you go. There is Christopher Luxon and Chris Bishop making the pot that they are then going to fill with hundreds of millions of dollars and give it to Big Tobacco, because that's what they do. All right, Ems, is there anything else you want to wrap up with before we head off for the night?
No, I'm just gonna
get out there.
Just
yeah, Cyber Goblin put that on Blue Sky last night and said something like, "Good luck sleeping tonight," which was very funny. And thank you for putting that out there. And make sure you look out for that video over the next few days, Cyber Goblin, where the clip is me and Clint talking about this image, and then I've put the image into the video, so you can, and it's even got a credit to you as the video plays as well. So there you go. All right, Ems, I think we're done. Yeah.
Yeah, nice and easy.
I think we're done.
Yeah,
nice and easy.
Yeah.
Good news, Whānau. I have booked Helen Clark to come and do a live with us. It's not going to be for a month or so, maybe even a bit longer. That's how busy her calendar is. But in the not too distant future, we will be having Helen Clark for a live. I think on a Thursday night. It is a ways away. It's 6 weeks away, but I just thought I'd give you a little bit of good news, a bit of a heads up there. Auntie Helen will be coming to join us. I remember I was interviewing her on Breakfast Radio once when she was up against, is that the right word? When she was, when Don Brash was the leader of the National Party. And I said, and Don Brash had just been the governor of the Reserve Bank. And I asked her the question, is it weird to now be competing against the person that you've just spent the last 3 years kind of collaborating with as the governor of the Reserve Bank? And she was like, yep, it's really weird. So she's cool, man. Always lots of fun. And obviously with what's going on at the moment, her involvement with the UN and stuff, she has a lot to add. I would like this whole issue to be cleared up by the time she gets here, because as quickly as it can be sorted out, the better. I suspect it won't be. And yes, we have confirmation that we've got Auntie Helen in a wee while. All right, team. That's us for tonight. And a big kia ora and thank you to Venetia King, who pulled me up and said that she had swapped levels on our Patreon, and she has I hadn't changed her name. If you ever see a mistake in the credits team and you need me to fix it up for you, don't hesitate to come and tell me. I'm an absolute moron and I miss things some of the time. And I guess also, just before we go, let me just remind you guys one more time, because I've seen there's been a couple of sales during the show, just so people don't miss out. The red hot, the hot pink edition of the BHN hoodie. And of course, now that we've got the availability of cutting the vinyl again, it means the OG is going to be coming back in the not too distant future. So if you've been sitting around waiting for the OG, the red BHN hoodie, that'll be coming back in the not too distant future. But as a reminder again, all of the older merch is on the old prices. The 2 styles of the new merch, the prices increased because the supply has increased their prices. But we've got a fair amount of this older stuff left. It's not older, it's just the t-shirts that we bought before they put their price up. That's what I mean by older. And so I'm going to say till the end of next week, we will keep all these ones at a lower price. So if you want a tax work less, tax wealth more, if you want to fuck around and find out, if you want a buffer or a Nicky No Boats or a Chewy Fufu, for the next kind of, I guess, 10, 12 days or so, they'll be at the the original price, and then unfortunately because of costings for us going up, they're going to have to go up by a couple of bucks. bhnshop.nz, where you can also get those limited edition hot pinks there as well. And a big thanks to Emily, whose hard work is responsible for probably about 70 or 80% of what we've just seen, I think. Probably.
No, it's shared between me and your wife, of course.
All right, guys. I guess we'll catch you for another night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Hey.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in.
You like that? Pink Chewy? Pink Chewy filled that role well.
Give me some creative ideas, guys.
Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work at what they can't afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a warpath to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All heavily, neither this way or that, and we'll be analyzed by butchery and pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's big hairy news.
I'm just looking for the names that are scrolling past, waiting for them. I'm not sure which level or layer we're at. Gosh, there's a lot of you. Oh, there we go. Look, Venetia King. There, see? In the right spot now. See? Venetia. See? I sorted it out finally. All right, team. That's it. That's it from us, I think. Anything else you got to chuck out there or wrap up with them? Is there anything you want to finish with?
Nah, not really. I'm going to go and have a good night's rest. And am I seeing these guys tomorrow, maybe?
Yeah, I think
Is
so.
that how it works?
I think
okay.
so. Yeah, all right.
Okay.
We'll catch
Well,
you
Pink
tomorrow
Chewy
night.
will be back.
Tomorrow night for another edition of Big Hairy News. Hooroo, team. See you tomorrow.
Denny.